Hey there, welcome to the Startup Leaders Show, where we learn lessons from leading startup founders and executives. I'm your host, Lisa Dreher. I'm excited to introduce our guest for today, Adam Livesay. He is the co-founder and chief revenue officer for a company called Elevat. And they are an innovative global industrial IoT solution provider. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for having me join you. I'm excited.
Absolutely. So maybe you can give our audience a little bit of background about Elevat and your background to get started here.
Sure. So Elevate's an industrial IoT company. We really focus on connecting heavy machinery, heavy assets around the globe. We make it very easy for you to connect everything from pumps to excavators to street sweepers, stuff that's outside of a factory wall. We get that data connected up to the cloud. We take that that machine information, transform it in business information, and allow our customers to make better decisions, right? Reduce warranty, increase productivity, increase safety. Really focused on the small and medium-sized manufacturing fleets around the globe.
Got it. Great. So when you look at IoT trends today, what are some of the things that you're really keeping an eye on?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say that in IoT, there's been a massive focus to offer true solutions. We saw a massive platform play for a decade. A lot of companies try to do it, large companies like GE and stuff. Really, I think there's just a handful, maybe 6 or 7 great platform companies out there. That could be the Azures, the AWSs, the PTCs, the so forth, that have enough of the platform building blocks to provide value. Every other IoT company that I've noticed has really made a focus to get into an industry vertical and solve a solution and get really good at solving that end-to-end solution as fast as they can. So it was really heavy consultant and professional service dollars for the last decade. We're seeing that move away and move into more industry solutions, that IoT is really becoming more of a feature set inside of a company's deployment, not the thing that could solve all problems for everybody.
Yeah, I get it. So what do heavy equipment manufacturers and fleet operators need to be doing to kind of stay ahead of this trend?
Yeah, so for sure. So a couple things, right? So the industry typically lags maybe 10 years or so behind like consumer electronic space, let's say, right? So you build this big heavy piece of machinery, it's doing a ton of work, it's doing a lot of stuff for our infrastructure and our farming and agriculture and transportation stuff out there, but they have a lot of legacy tech on it. And so by getting these machines connected, getting them connected to the cloud, allows these companies to do stuff like send out virtual technicians. So they put somebody on an airplane to go see what's wrong with the machine, what needs to be fixed. They do stuff like Tesla's your machine, where if you create a new software program for it, you can now update that software program in the field, and you have a better machine today than you did 2 years ago. There's also a huge push that a lot of these machines are both designed inefficiently and operated inefficiently, because in the past they've been designed to climb, Pikes Peak in the dead of winter, but they're really being used in like Phoenix, Arizona. Well, by getting this information now, we can make suggestions on how to operate that machine, reduce that energy cost, reduce that energy consumption. And in the same part, the manufacturers can have real data that say, well, we always knew this was probably the case, but now we can validate it that with this set of machines going to this part of the country, we can design a more energy efficient, more cost efficient machine for our customers.
Wow, that's really cool. So what would be an example of where a heavy equipment manufacturer has been able to sort of change where they're headed as a result of knowing this data?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you 2 examples. One is in the refuse industry. So in the refuse industry, you'll build these garbage machines. We see them come down our streets all the time,
Yeah.
and the same machine that's built for Seattle, Washington, is built for Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix has 0 hills. Seattle has a bunch of hills. What these manufacturers have now started to gather data on and say, if I'm building for waste management in Seattle or the city of Seattle or whatever the case is, I can now right size my engine, right size my pumps, right size my transmission, because I now have 5 years of data that show that I'm never going to go above this performance level. Inside Phoenix, it's a whole different engine set, whole different transmission set, whole different pump set. So that's been game changing for the industry. And part of that's been not only the data you're gathering, but everything that's happening with electrification, right? Tesla and everything that's happening in the consumer world is really driving down the cost of inverters and batteries and allowing for more of these electrical designs. The other piece has been on customers that, cement trowels. These cement trowels have big blades on them and they finish concrete and you can ride on them. We've worked with a lot of customers where they realize they don't need that huge horsepower of an engine to get that torque. And they've collected the data and they've started to realize we can put battery packs in there to give us that instant torque. And then by doing that, we can downsize the engine, giving us a higher performing trowel, lower cost, lower operating cost. So a lot of really cool innovations happen that could never start without getting those machines connected, starting to look at that data and seeing how they're really performing and being operated in the field.
Wow, that's amazing. Well,
Cool.
yeah, that's really, really cool. So thanks for sharing those examples. We invited you here today, though, also to share some lessons that you've learned as you've developed and grown Elevate and perhaps other companies prior to that. So let's jump into that. And the first question I have is, what have been the biggest keys to your business success so far?
Yeah, so I would say maybe two pieces. One would be mentorship, right? Being able to go out there and have great mentors, either being lucky that I've been surrounded by mentors or being able to go find mentors to be able to help either navigate tough situations, decisions, both strategic and tactical, or be able to coach you after you've done something wrong, right? And a lot of time you don't get that inside your own startup. The other piece is I do a ton of reading. If I don't know something about a subject, I don't have to be an expert in it, but I definitely want to continue that education and learn about it. And there's not a career path for entrepreneurship. So I figure the more that I can arm myself and the more I can read about it, I might be able to approach a situation a certain way. So those two things I think have been huge for me to fall back on.
That's great. So how have you identified those mentors that you've worked with? How have you found those people?
Yeah, all over. So some have been super fortunate to work for in the past. And I think that a lot of the time leaders inside industries, they want to offer mentorship, right? They want to offer coaching, but a lot of time people don't ask for that.
Yeah.
And so I think just by asking for it, and I don't even remember who recommended that to me, but somebody did in my life, that I realized that I've had some mentorship for a decade plus from some people, and then some for pockets of time throughout there. So that's been really great. And it's not just on the business side, it's also mentorship on the life side, right? So a lot of the time you'll have CEOs or founders and you want to know how to co-balance everything. And hearing from it, sometimes you don't get the lesson right away. It might take you a lot of years to get the lesson, but when you've heard it and then you live it later, you can connect the dots. So
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I think that's been pretty key.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely experienced that myself. So what has been the most valuable business lesson you've learned over the years?
Oh, yes. Okay. So from my partner, my founder, who I also worked for inside Western Integrated, integrity. I mean, the only thing you have at the end is your integrity, and regardless of what's going to happen with the business, right? If it's going to be success or it's not going to be success or whatever it is, you're going to have these relationships built over a long time, and so your integrity and your word is the only thing that you have. And I think that even though we all know it, to get it from somebody that's been in business for 40 years and has lived it in other businesses is a really big deal. And what I've noticed is you knew what that meant when you started, but now that we have 5, 6, 7, 8 year relationships with customers that we've partnered with, um, seeing how they operate on an integrity level, and it's so high level, and these are world class partnerships we have. And then we're hoping we're doing the same thing. You're seeing this where the companies are great, but the relationships between the people inside the companies end up becoming very strong as well. And so it's one of those things you see it prove out, even though you're coached on it this whole time. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Knowing what you know now, what piece of advice would you have given yourself early on or at the beginning when you first started this path with Elevate?
Yeah, for sure. So with Elevate, I would have said we should have gone faster.
Oh,
I think we knew that we had something that was going to change an industry, but coming from the manufacturing industry, you wanted to validate and verify a lot, and
yeah.
it was our first true startup outside of the manufacturing world. But what's turning out to be correct, I think if we would have moved faster, we that that's what I would tell myself.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would have done differently if you were to start all over?
If I was going to start all over, would have done differently. Yeah, I probably would have invested in marketing sooner. To be honest, I would have. It's something that I've come to appreciate in the last 12 months. I would say, because if you have, you know, I believe we have a world class team. I believe we have a world class product, and we've just started now to invest into the marketing effort. I really do think that we could have done that a lot earlier because of the team members we had.
Yeah.
And I think in manufacturing, you're always cautious about not over promising, right? You want to over deliver. But when I look back at it, I go, man, we have a world class team, and we have a ton of domain expertise. We could have made a massive message out there to again increase that velocity earlier on. But those are little things, because I think that at the same token, I don't like to doubt stuff in the past. In
Yeah.
hindsight, 2020, you're playing Monday quarterback,
Yeah.
but those are two things that I would put some fuel on the fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you, at this point in the business, experienced this one thing that I've seen a lot of early stage companies experience, where they kind of hit a plateau and they get stuck at that point, and they have to figure out, how do we scale past this plateau? So have
Yeah.
you experienced that, and what have you done to kind of push past that?
Yeah, for sure. So I wouldn't say we hit a plateau yet, but we hit scaling plateaus internally, right? So
Mhm.
we're going through that right now on scaling the sales organization, scaling the support team, um, working through that piece where, again, moving from a manufacturing to tech, those are kind of two different models, two different support schemas, and so we're going through that. We're reaching out to others. We have a great board to help provide some guidance. We have some great people inside our network to show that. The other piece is, I think it's identifying that when you're a startup, you come out there with maybe one product offering or one flavor of your product, and now we're introducing new products to the portfolio.
Yeah.
And so while maybe that's not hitting a plateau issue right now, it's going to help us expand into the larger addressable market that we couldn't go into right now. And so I think that's been pretty exciting. And I didn't even know that the new products that we're going to release, I didn't think we would have released those 12 months ago. But what's been kind of nice is the market's pulled us for it. And so now there's just a lot of effort that goes in to make sure the product launch is right, the support's right, the technology is right, and everything's ready to go.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit more, because it sounds like you're getting some really valuable input from the users of Elevate solutions. So how are you going about getting that feedback so that you can, roll out some of the things that you're rolling out?
Yeah. Okay. So when we launched with a strategy where the early adapters in the industry probably wanted a lot of technology and a lot of capabilities on these heavy machineries. That if they were going to be the first ones to go, they really wanted to do a massive digital transformation. So we gave them, the Tesla Roadster model, right? They got all the bells and whistles. It was high horsepower. It was something that they were going to be industry leaders, and there is a segment of the market of those early adapters that really want to do that, and that's been great. And that market is still unaddressed, and it has momentum, and everything's great. But then now we're getting to the point where the everyday rider wants to get into a Tesla economy car, and they want to go in there. And so while we only need to move, I'm going to steal something from my buddy Rob Tiffany, that even though we just have to move the value needle a little bit for these everyday users, they're going to get massive ROI from it. And so for us, it's actually simplifying the product offering, getting them something out there that can be deployed very easily. It's not going to give them all the bells and whistles of the Roadster, but they are still going to get that next wave of a digital machine at a low entry cost and a low entry deployment cycle. And that was something that we didn't fully understand how large that opportunity was 12 months ago, and the market has helped drive us there.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
That's great. So I want to end with one final question, and this is your big prediction for the future. So if you were to make one big prediction about where things are headed, what would you say?
So mine's actually going to be around work and around teams and culture. So obviously in 2020, there's a ton of talk about remote work, and it's greatly shifted with the technology and Zoom and everything. And I think this is going to fundamentally be a piece of the DNA of every company, that they're going to have a remote culture, or they're going to have some type of hybrid remote culture. I think there's going to be some things that are come from this. You're going to be able to recruit and hire outside of your geographical area now to go find true experts in their field anywhere. You're also going to have team members that are going to expect to be able to work remotely and be able to use these tools and not come in. So I think that's definitely going to change. The other piece to that is, I think that we've had in the last 10 years a very rapid being always connected to our phones and our screens and everything. And with remote work comes, you lose a commute. You seem to be in a lot more Zoom meetings. You seem to be connected a lot more. I am starting to hear more of a desire from people to be able to lock out that tech at core times inside their life. And I think it moved so fast over the last 10 years. Everyone's expected to return an email at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night. But I think there's going to be a fundamental shift in that, of how we interact with each other throughout the work week. So I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to open up a tremendous amount of opportunity for manufacturing, especially that have a hard time recruiting locally in high-priced areas like Seattle. But it's going to come with some challenges, and I think the companies that adapt it and really make it part of their DNA are going to thrive in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. You remind me of a TEDx. I worked with a TEDx speaker at one point, and this was even just a couple of years ago. And he had a line in his speech about how, basically what would you do if you didn't have access to your phone for 24 hours or 48 hours? And everybody cheered, and he was expecting everybody to groan. And so it was really funny, because I think you're right. I think people are looking for also that opportunity to disconnect, kind of. Yeah.
And I think it's going to be driven by leaders. I think it's going to be driven by leaders that are coming through this next millennial class that don't mind being connected more, but they definitely want to be disconnected as well. And I think that I've had a lot of conversations with peers around the industry in this, and I think it's coming pretty fast. And so the companies that are embracing it, some of our partners, I know some that are doing a tremendous job at embracing a remote culture, a hybrid culture, putting in the right tools, the collaboration, creating that digital culture in a way. Yeah. And then some that aren't. And you're actually starting to see some of the change and shifts of the team and stuff. So it's gonna It's going to be something that is definitely going to ripple through manufacturing in that ecosystem. And I think it'll be really good because I think it's going to provide an opportunity to recruit young people that are excited about bringing tech into manufacturing, but don't want to be in that office every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Adam, I really want to thank you for being here today. And as these changes occur, we'll have to speak again and
Yeah.
and catch up on all the changes that are happening. So thank you so much for sharing your lessons here with us today. And we'll talk again soon.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the time.
My pleasure.